Got a friend in Santiago, got a friend in Berlin, got a friend 100 miles away, who's as close as my hand. Distance couldn't keep us apart because we're one man with one heart.
You're watching Cobb TV Live, and this is The Inner Stream. What is the Inner Stream? The Inner Stream is the news of the inner world of the world. And the inner world of the world is the inner life of humanity. And we're in a transition right now between animality, I'm making up words, and humanity. We are trying to reach that inner life of humanity. And I want to make a special welcome for the friends who just came from the question and answer event. You got an opportunity to ask some things about the study of Kabbalah, about the nature of Kabbalah. Here on the Inner Stream, what we deal with is the relevance of Kabbalah, that it has everything to do with our lives. It really explains how our lives work, and it shows us the correct way to live. It shows us what life is and what it isn't. Because much of what we consider to be life, the Kabbalists tell us, on the inner level, it's actually death. It's not really alive. It's just the animate level of things. The inner stream, the flow of news that comes from this level that we want to actually reach, this gets transmitted to the people who study, studying meaning who connect for the purpose of reaching this new state. Study is a kind of a comprehensive thing. It deals with us on all of the levels that we feel, sense, wonder about. And it's more than a way of life. It is a way of entering life. And in the lesson, there are things that come from the context of what's shared. And when things are shared in the books with a guide for the purpose of connecting, then the real news of the day becomes conveyed through the inner life of humanity. Now, if you're not a student, you'll just notice the things that are going on, and you probably will have difficulty stitching together all of these things in a way that you feel you can really understand why things are happening and what you need to do in it. Let's take a little journey together. Let's first look at yesterday's lesson and the thrust of the lesson, and then let's take a look at the news today. Let's take a look at how the news that is the external aspect of things that's happening to us, how it can be understood. Because whenever you hear the news, you're getting a spin on it. Unfortunately, most of the spin just comes from the level of confusion that throws out events that we simply can't understand or put together. You're also going to hear a spin here, but this spin is coming from an overview. It's coming from an insight into the way that nature actually works and why a person would want to make the kind of connection in which they would undergo the kind of change that lets them see this about nature and lets them get close to it, lets them actually live it. So let's take a look at the stream from yesterday, and let's see where we are today.
It means there's a question whether you're drawing the reforming light at all, because first and foremost, it comes for that reason. Thus, while we read the Zohar, or any other parts of the Kabbalah and we feel bad, it means that we're on the right path. It means that we're in a state where the Kabbalah that we study, it is the potion of life, because it reveals to us our sicknesses, our illnesses, in order for us to correct them. Whereas if from studying Kabbalah we would have gotten this good, secure feeling that we deserve more, this is called the potion of death. Because it would calm us down to remain in our egos and to become even more prideful. We would have achieved double concealment. And thus, to really be glad for the revelation of the wicked, for the revelation of our inner wicked while we study, because it means that it's truly a sign, for I've created the evil inclination, I've created the Kabbalah as a spice. I met many people who felt good as a result of studying Kabbalah. Poor guys, they're entering deeper and deeper into the darkness. They think that they have no evil, that they're already good, that they can correct others, to demand from others. With us, it's the very opposite. The more we learn, the more we understand that the evil is inside us, and first of all we have to...
The evil is inside us. That is, that what we are seeing, even if we don't study, even if we're just new to this, even if we just live in the world like everybody else, we're still seeing situations that we want to blame people, organizations, anything external to us on. The name of this little piece was titled, the title wasn't up there, I think, you couldn't see it, but it's called Inner Dirt. And the way that it relates to the world in general is that the inner dirt does not remain inner. It doesn't remain hidden. It has to come out, and it comes out, as Dr. Lightman said, for a purpose, for a good purpose. Because we're undergoing a kind of revelation, a revolution that is being made very clear to us by certain acts of nature. What I mean by revelation is that there is a quality, you could call it a divine quality. It is something different, above, opposite than the nature in which we find ourselves stuck, encapsulated. And in the past, we had a lot of crises, things that would happen over our history, say, over the last few thousand years, and of course, history goes way back before that. But what we generally learn about, what we understand, and what we see is what's closest to us. So if we look at the century, the 20th century, in which things have undergone the most rapid change, we had all kinds of different sorts of crises. We had things that happened over here. There was a financial kind of crisis, or there was some kind of a war, or ideological differences, or if you go back even farther and then you come to the present day specifically, you'll see religious wars, or you see problems that have to do with just social problems within a given nation. So these problems happened in different areas of human experiences, and they were all over the place, and there were many of them, and this makes it very, very difficult for us to understand that there's a singular problem. You can't identify the problem with so-called human nature, and therefore you can't even begin to work on what we need to work on. But right now, something very, very different is happening. This inner dirt will not stay where it is. Anything that we do now that is guided by separation, secrecy, greed, any of these things of the quality that we generally operate on, none of these things keep. They all leak. Because there is what we're seeing now is very, very focused, very, very specific, moving specifically. It's a force, it's a light, it's something new, and it's something beautiful and something very difficult for us to understand, but it's focused very tightly on a certain inner point within us, in which these things cannot, should not, and no longer will remain hidden. We are being moved along in a very specific way in order to achieve a very specific thing. And we're being shown a law very opposite to us. A law that you could say is a law of love, it's a law of connection, and nothing that we do now that is not like that law from its very beginning within us, from the very inkling seed of any intention, of any act, is not allowed to stand if it goes opposite to this law of connection.
A human being's desires can only be fulfilled according to their natural purpose. An individual has physical desires and social desires. The physical desires can be fulfilled by the individual, and their purpose is survival. While social desires can only be fulfilled by others. Their purpose is the survival of the society. When an individual uses their social desires selfishly, it leads to a never-ending pursuit of more. On the global level, this produces social, economic, and political imbalance. One can choose to fulfill their social desires in two ways, for themselves or for the whole. Obviously, choosing global benefit as the aim balances the global surplus, creating positive results at all levels. This is the law of necessity and surplus.
But the sad thing is, we're all addicted to the surplus.
If you're joining us a little late, just joining us now, I want to welcome again everybody, and especially the people who are joining us who hopped from the question and answer event to joining us for the first time. So we looked at what the inner upper news is, and now let's take a look at what the lower outer news is. Let's see how those words, those ideas, the idea of revealing, the necessity of revealing a particular issue and what that's going to do to us, how that's really unfolding in the world. Today, for the first time in the news, although this has been going on for a while, there is a huge additional oil spill. Now, this is an oil spill in a pipeline that goes between Canada and the United States, and it goes through Michigan. And in the New York Times today, it says, and this is in Battle Creek, Michigan, it talks about this fellow Dan Backus. He arrived at his favorite fishing spot on the Kalamazoo River on Wednesday, and he found black water and oil-soaked plants. And when he looked at the damage from a massive oil spill there this week, He mourned the loss of fish and vegetation. "It's all destroyed," said Mr. Backus. "I'm just sick about it." Response crews worked Wednesday to contain the oil spill, among the largest ever in the Midwest. The spill had already reached at least 35 miles of river and left fish and birds coated in oil. More than 800,000 gallons of oil spilled Monday into the Kalamazoo River, a major waterway that flows into Lake Michigan, about 60 miles away. And the leak came from a 30-inch pipeline, that carries millions of gallons of oil every day from Indiana to Sarnia, Ontario. So here we have another leak. But why now? Why another leak now? I mean, is it like the oil spill in the Gulf somehow weakened the whole oil infrastructure all over the world, and now is there some kind of physical connection here between these two things? All the oil stuff all over the world now is starting to fail because of what? Why are we seeing this lifeblood of an economic system that's based on a principle of territorial separation, of scarcity, of excess in terms of what's made, in excess in terms of how it's used, of the inavailability of the resource where it's needed, of the hoarding of things? All of it focused on a particular issue, which is the opposite of care for the whole system. This is a starting point issue. It's not the actions issue. It's you know, the things that happen in the world according to what we're being shown in our in what needs to be repaired in us. It happens so that it does show us this, and it's always thematic. But you don't see the themes. I mean, people say stuff like, you know, when stuff happens, it always happens in threes. Well, it would be good if you knew what the threes, that's not actually true, but that's how you feel it. There's a kind of a thematic thing, but it's aimed at a particular place. Get it? No? Get it? Still no? Get it? How many more times do we have to see this same issue on exactly the same point? Just long enough. Nature holds it for us just long enough that we may be able to get the point. But nature's not satisfied just with this one or two times. It really, like a poet, I could say a great or a bad poet, it overdoes the analogy. I mean, at least it's doing that now. Everything is leaking. It's spilling out because we can no longer contain anything. We can't hoard it. We can't hold it. We do not possess things that we could take away to some corner of the world or to some corner of our world and say that it is ours. Not so that we will lose those things. Of course not. Because we don't need to do that, and because this force that is developing us, this opposite force to us, is exactly opposite to that impulse in us. There is no necessity for excess. There is no need to cut off a corner and keep it away from somebody else, because things just don't work that way. They never did work that way, and now we're not being allowed to imagine that they work that way. It's only we within ourselves, because we're run by our sort of egoistic approach, the fact that in the past we have been separated purposefully. The whole system of nature separated us and has been developing us through this separation until we could come to a point where we see that we cannot hold it, that our happiness is never involved with the holding of these things. We're not allowed to enjoy this or to benefit from it for even one moment any longer. Anywhere we look, we see that we don't own things, we share them. We partake in them. The law of nature is that everything, all necessities are provided to everyone. And nature requires us to give our maximum input and effort into the support of the whole. It's a living organism, and that's the law of the organism. And there are no real individual parts to this that can say, I'm over here and none of this matters to me. That illusion is going away. So we have this force of bestowal, which Kabbalistically there's this quality called bina. It's a term, it's a Kabbalistic term, but it also relates to the idea of a quality like water. It cleanses, it flows, it's free. You can't, even though it exists somewhat in a bounded world that is in a limited type of consciousness where we are now, even on the animal level, it still maintains these qualities of being unbounded, of being connected to everything, of finding its natural level and supplying everything and everywhere. So these leaks are our inability any longer to contain this light that's pushing us to change. But that's not the only leak that we have. We have a leak of secrecy, a leak about danger. Massive military leak paints crushing picture of Afghanistan conflict. So somebody, and they're starting to name somebody actually who they think is the person who release this stuff, but there's all of this top secret, at least it's stamped secret. I understand that not everything that gets labeled secret is secret. There's a bit of overkill always in these matters, but that doesn't matter, because the point is that it is impossible to hide these things any longer. There's somebody within the system who is not aligned with that goal. It's not being allowed anymore. See, these documents are all digitized. They all exist in a digital form on computer so that they can be transferred anywhere at the speed of light. Now, you know what happens when you digitize something? It becomes pretty much anybody's property, and it's almost impossible. No, it is impossible, as we're seeing, to protect it, hide it, defend it, turn it into something else. You can encrypt it. Maybe you can hold on for another, year or two to this thing or that thing, whether it's music, whether it's movies, whether it's top secret information. This is the equalizer. This is the quality itself. Here is this force, once again, this force that says everything has to go according to a law of nature. And it has to have an inner impulse that's like that law of nature. Otherwise, we can't control it. It gets away. It leaks. It runs through your fingers. It runs from your computer out into everybody's heart and mind. And the only protection that there really is not a military protection. The protection is that we need to agree with this force of nature, this force of bestowal that wants to not just distribute, but redistribute everything that exists in life for the benefit of everybody. It doesn't mean we lose anything. It doesn't mean you don't have a house. You end up not having the things that you need. It simply means that the illusion is being taken away. And we're not happy with this situation because we're not like this situation. The internet itself is like this, but there's even institutions that set themselves up as a principle, saying yes. What is this thing called? The WikiLeaks. It's its principle is, if it exists out there and you tell it to me, we'll just stick it into that digital system and it'll go everywhere. And the internet is working against all kinds of repressive governments. Events can't really be hidden when there are 200 cameras on any given event, even like the thing that happened here in Toronto, where there wasn't really any consequence to the entire thing, where the G20 were here. But the principle was still very evident. There were, hundreds and hundreds of people, maybe in some places that looked like there were like 1,000 or 2,000 people, and many of them carrying the devices that digitize the information from every possible angle and send it everywhere else. It's not that the revolution is not that we're stopping some kind of government or this or that. It's leaking. The selfishness, the egoism, the separation, it doesn't work. But we don't know, really, how we're supposed to live there. We can look at that phenomenon. We can say it seems to be happening in so many places. We can sort of wonder at it. People can come up with theories about it. But the fact is that this is already known, that this is actually a simple principle of nature that we learn by opposites, that when these things are revealed to us, the fact, and it's a good thing. I mean, we are so lucky that these things are coming out, that they are specifically focused in a way that we can learn it. But if we really want to learn it, if we really want to do something with it, if we want to get to that next stage, then we have to know something about how this system works. We have to practice living in this system without selfishness, with that kind of concern, care, and connection. We don't have any training for that. All we're getting now is, sorry you don't get to hold on to that. Sorry you can't conduct that war successfully. You cannot keep this secret. No, you don't get to have this resource over here. No, whatever you do, it does not stay in secrecy. It affects other people. They feel it everywhere. This shows us something, in a shadow, but it's also pointing to what we really want. We don't want this. We don't want the pain that comes with this. We don't want the stupefaction of just having to go sort of dead. I don't want anything anymore. Maybe I need to change what I want. Maybe I need to learn what it is I should want. Maybe I should pay attention both to the external things that are happening and also find a way to learn how nature operates. That's what study in Kabbalah involves. It involves all that, all of those events, the ups and the downs, the revelation of things in our world, how they serve us, even the bad things, how they serve us, and then how we can begin to use them to actually become like what we need to become. This science of human inner evolution is something known in its complete form in Kabbalah. So if you went to the question and answer event today and you're watching this is really what you can expect. You can expect to see above or behind the tapestry and to be able to get with this new revelation that is happening here. It's a good thing. It just doesn't feel too good when we're in the midst of it. And so you know that you can begin studying at the Learning Center. You just need to sign up. You can watch programming on this channel if you're not the studying type, because all of the programming here deals with the wisdom of Kabbalah in an accessible way. But for a person who's really serious, wants to do something for the world, something real, and is beginning to sense that there is something that you can do. For the person who truly is motivated for that, the thing to do is to learn something about the system. Learn how to be connected with other people. Learn why nature is pushing us this way. And that's all available. You can, if you want it, you can have it. There's no problem. And I truly hope that you will, because the more people who do, the greater the intensity is for that change in a conscious way.
How to be endlessly fulfilled. Ever wonder why even the most successful people chase fulfillment endlessly? I mean, they are roughly as satisfied as you and me. You know, extremely unsatisfied. Of course, if we had all they have, we would totally be satisfied. Actually, it makes no difference who we are, since our world is subject to a law of restriction, so that just when all your dreams are about to come true, your fulfillment disappears. The secret is that the place we can actually receive fulfillment is projected outside us in what looks like other people. the people we usually want to step on in order to fulfill ourselves. The Book of Zohar is a remedy for our bad vision. It connects us to the spiritual system, where we can be like the tube delivering the pleasure and be endlessly fulfilled. The end.
So there is an explanation of fulfillment. For heaven's sake. We got some messages from friends. From Tanist 2. This is interesting. Participating in the lessons, there seems to be a convergence of the daily videos or the daily lessons, I guess, and the thinking that it provokes in viewing them. I'm very pleased to come across this. This is true. This is the flow. There is a convergence because everything comes from above into this world. Nothing changes. You can't change anything from down here. So you're going to see that if something is connected to a higher place, and the higher place is only the desire to bestow, or at least the effort to want to bestow and be connected, that's a higher place for us. That's a human level. So anything that happens in the world emerges first there, and then it comes here. So there has to be a convergence between the two. And here's just a comment, a note from Tenerife. Oh no, that's a place. It's from Carmen. And the comment is, I just feel great love and for the great big work that you're doing for all of us all around the world. That's she's referring to the channel, the study, the friends. I love to hear the explanations about the legacy that we're receiving from the ancient Kabbalists, and I feel just like living another dimension of life. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. That's a lovely comment. There was also something that I noticed on the site that came in. Our site, you know, you can, if you go to the live show page, the live stream page, and you sign up, you'll see below the screen, if you're watching this on the Kabbalah channel, that's tv.kabbalah.info. If you're a live viewer, then you will notice that below the screen, there's a thing that says to sign up. If you sign up, then you have the opportunity to send us a video, to write us a comment. There's all kinds of ways you can communicate with us, and this person has left us a comment. It doesn't say, oh, Michael is the name. No, that's not the comment, but hello, Michael. That's an old one. It is from Incarnate. I have many learnings from my former life that I must discard. I'm glad to have Kabbalah and Torah to show me the way. So this person feels inspired, wants to start fresh in terms of what they know or what they think they know, and that's a very, very good attitude. And by the way, Torah does not mean the book. It means the light that changes us, the light that reforms us. This is the thing that we try to get when we work, when we study. We try to attract this force that we're seeing working generally in human affairs. We try to attract it not to bust things up, not to break dams and make things leak necessarily, but to help us. We need to attract this higher force because we don't have it in our nature, and this pulls us, actually. It's not that it pulls, it's just a way of explaining what happens, that it gives us the ability to want more, to become like it, given the right circumstances. And study is actually the right circumstance. And there's also a question. This is from David from Toronto. Oh, David, if you're in Toronto, come and visit the Toronto group. You can find out all the information about where where the group is located. I'm sure we'd be very happy to see you at a Thursday lesson and meal. The question is, should I seek the group, or will the group find me? Well, if you know that there is such a thing as a group, if you have a desire to be connected and to test that kind of connection out, how does one relate in the new reality, to learn about that, then in a sense the group's already found you, but only because there's an opening in you. There's a saying that the Creator, which is this force of bestowal, this force of connection in nature, takes our hand and puts it on the good fortune and says, take. In other words, a person doesn't actually choose. We don't choose anything here, really, until we achieve a kind of freedom of will, which we don't have here, because we're just manipulated mechanically by our lower nature. When this force, when we're ready for it, then we come across this system that reveals nature. It's called Kabbalah, but it's nature revealing itself. That's all that it is. And part of that is that you begin to see that there actually is a place. There's an opening. And the opening to a new world is actually a group, and specifically how you relate to the group. So you could say they're both happening at the same time, but you're basically being brought to it. And then finally we have from Rose from South Carolina. She's saying, hello, friends. Hello, Rose. So, all in all, this revelation of this force is only happening in order to bring us away from the sadness, the disappointments, the emptiness, and the unworkability of where we are to something better.
Stuck in the mud, don't know which step to take. I don't know if I'll make it before I break. Take me, friends, I am yours. I'd buy you for all the money in the world. Where, oh where can I find what I lost? Do I have the strength to carve it into my heart? The futility is killing me. Let me plug in, I need a real kickstart. What can I tell you that you don't already know? I just move the words around trying to make a flow. Without you I'm home alone. Without me you need. Let's shake on it and bake on it and drink on it's guaranteed. La 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 la. La 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 la. So once again we're meeting in another place. Has it been so long that we've been hurtling through space? Touch me now, I'm dreaming, I wanna feel something I just can't feel. Something that's better, something that stays, something that won't go away. Something that's better, something that stays, something that won't go away. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Got a message from David and Sandra from Alberta. Just want to say that Dave says to send a message and say hello. So, hello. What a good friend you are, wife, partner, to send the message of hello for Dave. Tell Dave hello from me and Andrew.
Well, they're friendly in Alberta.
Yeah, they are.
This is what I hear. Much more friendly than the Toronto area.
That's true.
That's what I hear.
This is Andrew Martin.
Hi, everybody.
My good friend, and his show is on in rotation. It's also a live show, and his show is Generation Z.
Z for the Americans, yes.
Yeah, and that show is all about connection. It's all about the work that we try to do in this social movement, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what this is. This is a social experiment based on a kind of a science of the inner life of humans and how it works. And the group makes events so that we can actually, besides the study, so that we can actually do this and advance in this and spread the net as wide as possible until we can feel and work in the whole body of humanity, in the whole world. And there was an event just this last weekend, tremendous event, called a Mega Congress.
Mm-hmm.
It was a virtual Congress. It differed from stuff that we've done in the past in that it wasn't really located anywhere.
That's for sure.
It sort of takes on the qualities of this this non-local law of nature that provides for everything all at once and considers everything, and not so much the individual but the whole. And I had reactions, impressions, and about this whole thing. But you played a big part in this. You did a broadcast from Toronto as well,
right?
As part of this whole global thing. Tell me what you saw and what the friends were really doing in all this.
I think you just said it. And as I'm sitting here, the impression that is relived in me and kind of hasn't left me since the Congress was it's fun to consider the whole. It's fun to try to reach outside of yourself and see things as part of yourself from the inside out or the outside in. It's fun to be with so many people in so many different places that it's literally impossible to physically feel, but you do anyways. It's fun to try to do that. Whether that's born of imagination, because what starts happening is you really start, the mind plays a trick on itself kind of thing. You start to, when somebody comes on the screen and you're speaking to someone here and you're talking about somebody in Kiev and all of a sudden that person from Alberta on the screen they're like they're in the room. Because of that inner intention we're all trying to maintain is we're trying to consider everybody. We're trying to bring everybody inside of us individually. So when everybody's doing that with the right, it becomes adventurous. It becomes fun.
This Mega Congress is really a kind of an extension of the study, right? There are things that we learn. The books of Kabbalah seem. Before you study them, before you really understand what they're speaking about, they seem complex, dry, impenetrable. They're really full of amazing things that allow a person to change themselves in relation to the entire system. But things that, like the Mega Congress, are really the implementation of the study in a really, really practical way. So we're not the people who are are getting together, and maybe we need to describe what that actually was physically, they are doing it based on something that they've studied, but now all of a sudden they sort of enter into it if it was 2D, like words on a page, suddenly it's 3D or 4D, or actually it's 10-dimensional.
Right.
But it's based on what we study, and this is how we do it. Why don't you describe really what that mega congress was?
Okay, so
one sec, Dima. I'm going to run it. Just cut the sound completely out of that. Okay.
What it was I think it ended up to be 60 countries, members that study with B'nai Baruch, whether they be virtual or in a group the size of. It takes two individuals sitting there trying to connect to groups as large as Israel, 300, Toronto, 100, Moscow, 300, everybody set aside this particular moment in time in order to, exactly what you said, implement what they've been studying. Implement, getting out of themselves and acquiring the desires of others.
So what does that mean to people who haven't studied? What does it mean to escape yourself or get out of yourself?
It means to make others' desires for the spiritual, for a purpose in their life, more important than even your desire for the spiritual and purpose in your life. Because when you're studying Kabbalah, there's something that's driving you there that wants a greater pleasure than what you've sought in this world. You're not interested in money necessarily anymore. It's fine, but it's not great. Fame, for all of these things kind of lose their luster. So you want to find the purpose, the meaning. You want to really know what this life is for. You come to Kabbalah where others want that. So we all collect. We all want to find the meaning, but the trick is you want your friends to find it before more than you want yourself to find it.
So the mega congress, in which you've got like 60 countries connected, all doing sort of activities together on the web where you can see it and you can see all these others, this is really kind of a model of this law of nature that we've been talking about. This is the bestowal that is really spilling over into this world that we don't know how the heck to live in. So this is really kind of like a simulation of expanding into that whole system, of a way of living that way.
You know what? The expansion is the right word. And I go back to the initial sensation. It can be fun because the point, it's an impossible game. It's an impossible game to get out of self. What does that mean, to get out of self? I am who I am. How can I get out of self? So the attempt, the goal is actually impossible. But to play an impossible game is the fun part, because in a sense it actually starts to work. There is this sensation that overcomes you, that through trying to emulate this thing that you have no idea of what it exists, just what the Kabbalists tell us in every text they run. By trying to connect, it creates something above even my level, and it becomes fun.
That's the impression, really, the main impression that I and many people that I talked to had, that we were really doing it. That somehow, not because I'm doing it, but because we were doing it, and you could see this great arc across the whole planet, around the entire planet.
Yeah.
That this one desire was the focus of all of these people. So if you're connecting to this one desire and everybody's doing everything they can, and took a lot of effort, huh? I mean, it was like,
absolutely.
There was like very early morning lessons. It ran like through the whole day. The flow of energy is no longer coming from you. I mean, if it was up to me, I would have been
asleep. It's true.
I would have been asleep.
At 3 o'clock in the morning, the last thing you want to do is get up and
you
go.
see all those people all around the world, and
who've been up all night on their other schedule. So everybody's on different time length, different wavelengths. People are getting up, people are going to sleep.
Different languages.
Totally different languages.
And we had cultural programs in which we saw expressions of this desire, but it framed in different cultures. So the language didn't matter.
Exactly.
The expression, the mentality didn't matter.
Yep.
the time,
culture, religion,
nothing,
fashion, anything.
The only thing that mattered, and the only thing that we were focusing on, is this desire to be able to live in a new world for a completely different inner reason than just taking my piece over to a corner.
The fun, I think, partly the fun I'm describing is a thing that the Kabbalists call arvut, which is this mutual guarantee. It's a space and time was created which it was okay to kind of let go of the ego, just let go of my self-concern just for a moment and try. And that was created through everybody's mutual inner thought of this going towards this one goal. And this is what makes a society like this so precious and so unique, is that this inner thought, not because outside you didn't say, hey, Andrew, I got your back on this Congress, but there was a connection made, just, I don't know how, from our interiors collectively, that gave me the impression that it was okay to think about you, to think about, not be so self-concerned for those 48 hours.
But it is enacting something that we've learned. Now, you mentioned this term called arvut, which means mutual guarantee. You see this word in the Bible, in the story of Exodus, when the people arrive at Mount Sinai, which means hatred. It's like a great height of hatred, an opposite thing that has to be changed. You have to go to this, it has to be revealed, and then you can reach this thing called the giving of the Torah, which is the light, the new reality. But the one thing that was required was that there had to be this mutual guarantee based only on this one desire to receive the light, all not for me, but for everybody else. That was the requirement. And this is also what's being studied. We're gonna go, actually, right after this live broadcast. We're going to our Midnight Zohar program, which tonight deals with that very principle, the arvut.
Great.
And in order to make use of that study, I hope that everything that our friends have heard here provides a kind of an insight and, more importantly, an inspiration for that. But it takes preparation. You know, to me, the most important thing about the Congress is that sense that it is possible. You taste it. You know, you enter it, even if it's just momentarily. Yeah. And in this Congress, it wasn't just momentarily, but even if it's just that, when you come and you see and you taste and you know that this is possible, we're not stuck in an impossible place, that the world can change,
right?
And you see other people doing it, and you it's usually hidden from us. Everything in this world of value, this quality of love, quality of bestowal, is always hidden from us. And here in the Congress, this quality of giving or arvut, or this guarantee, all of a sudden, you see it. It's right around the world. It's everywhere. It's a revelation, actually. It's the other side of this revelation that's making all of our other egoistic systems fail.
Right. So there's this balancing act going on.
Yeah.
That while this little group of individuals...
the door's over here.
Right,
the door to the new world is over here, not over there.
Right.
It's cooperating with nature, with all of these people. What an inspiration that is. It is doable. We're already seeing it.
Well, you were describing a system that needs to strike a balance, that those parts need to, one side is revealed so that the other one can be discovered from that place, that world of opposites. So this is what's actually going on, because there's a lot of bad news. There's a lot of, I heard, spills and leaks and problems, and...
This is its opposite nature. If you want to know, if you go into those things and you feel the inability to actually get anything that you want out of the system as it's been operated up to now,
right,
it's got to make you think, well, what do I want? What do I want? And this is something that we, as a social movement, are really trying to show the world. It's not just ideas. This is real.
Right. And you could define it. I think you just did. The thing that's specially unique about it is what this social movement wants is not in this world.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Zero.
It's not going to mess with this world or its political systems
exactly.
Or none of that stuff.
It wants nothing from here.
No, it just wants the inner life of people to be directed at supporting the life of the whole.
Right.
And without that, it doesn't matter what change we make on any external level. It's gonna leak. It's
Right.
gonna fall into exactly the same thing.
Right.
I'm gonna play a piece that you worked on. You were the director for this thing.
Oh.
And it's a musical piece, and we're going to use this as an intention to get us into the Midnight Zohar.
Great. Okay, this was
not
the
this
event.
not
Okay,
this one.
yeah,
That's
this
the
is
event.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
And that was fun, by the way. You saw that this went live to Israel, to the nation of Israel, all around the world on the web. And basically, the cameramen left their post and everybody danced.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah,
I
the
think
host had to run and take over the camera, actually.
It was
Right?
great.
Okay, here we go. We exist in this world on the animate level where we're completely controlled by our nature. However, at some point in time, we reveal that this life is insignificant and pointless and experience a desire to rise to a higher level. Yet how can we ascend above the animate existence, which is automatic and involuntary? How can we become human, free, and above the life of our animate bodies? Virginia May from Clearwater, Florida is saying, "May our points in our hearts unite our love to create a world that makes every effort to love one another.